When misunderstanding becomes a weapon, a glimpse into the dark mind of the narcissist. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship with someone who insists, almost with desperation, that they are deeply misunderstood? To the narcissistic mind, this belief is not a fleeting insecurity. It is a defining part of their identity. They live in a constant state of perceived persecution, convinced that no one truly sees them. And if you've ever been entangled in such a relationship, you've probably caught yourself thinking, if only I could read their mind, maybe everything would finally make sense. According to psychologists, this yearning to understand the narcissist is not about empathy, it's about survival. Victims of narcissistic abuse often develop a hyper-attuned radar to detect danger, an adaptation known as hypervigilance. Over time, they begin to anticipate every sigh, every shift in tone, every flicker of irritation. Some survivors even describe recognizing a narcissist's mood by the sound of their keys jingling at the door. This psychological adaptation forms in environments of chronic unpredictability, where emotional explosions lurk behind calm faces. It's the mind's way of trying to control the uncontrollable, to predict chaos before it strikes. But here's the cruel paradox. The narcissists themselves cannot regulate their emotions. Clinical psychologists often point out that beneath their grandiosity lies an unstable sense of self, perpetually swinging between superiority and shame. Because they cannot soothe themselves, they externalize their inner turmoil, projecting blame, demanding attention, and rewriting reality to preserve their fragile ego. And yet, they always circle back to the same refrain, "You just don't understand me." This feeling of being misunderstood has become the narcissist's favorite refuge. In the age of social media, many narcissistic individuals have mastered the art of self-victimization. They curate their narratives online, polished, tragic, and deeply convincing, presenting themselves as sensitive souls unfairly judged by a cruel world. Psychologists describe this as narcissistic impression management, a defense mechanism used to protect their self-image while deflecting accountability. The story always follows the same arc. They are the victim, the misunderstood genius, the wounded empath. What's absent is reflection. There's no recognition of how their actions wound others. It's a one-way mirror of pain. Even among narcissists who recognize their own traits, many insist that their narcissism is simply misunderstood. They may admit, "Yes, I'm narcissistic, but that's because people never appreciated me," or "I just love too deeply." This self-aware yet self-serving confession gives them the illusion of insight without the responsibility of change. As psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula notes, narcissistic self-awareness doesn't always lead to growth. It often becomes another form of manipulation. Then there's the vulnerable narcissist, the type who hides behind tears instead of arrogance. These individuals are masters of eliciting pity. Their world is built on a foundation of perceived injustice. They believe life has shortchanged them, and the universe owes them compensation. In relationships, this manifests as emotional whiplash. One moment, they appear as fragile, wounded children, ashamed, tender, and yearning for love. The next, they unleash venomous sarcasm, self-pitying rants, or outright cruelty. Psychologists describe this as the oscillation between shame and entitlement, a psychological seesaw that keeps their partners trapped. You see their hurt, their loneliness, their childlike pain, and you stay out of compassion. You tell yourself, they just need love, but that compassion becomes the very hook that keeps you bound. And every time you try to express your own pain, they twist it, insisting that you're the one who doesn't understand them. This dynamic leaves victims caught in what trauma experts call a cognitive dissonance loop, a mental tug-of-war between empathy and self-preservation. You see their vulnerability and want to help, but every attempt to help only feeds their narrative of victimhood. You end up feeling guilty, responsible, and strangely powerless. And then comes the final layer of hypocrisy, the cruel double standard that defines every narcissistic relationship. They demand empathy but offer none. They crave forgiveness but never apologize. They expect your unconditional understanding, yet they will weaponize your emotions the moment you show them. Psychologists often note that this pattern stems from what's known as empathy asymmetry, The narcissist sees your empathy as a resource to exploit, not a gift to reciprocate. For the victim, healing begins with recognizing this imbalance for what it is: a psychological trap. The way out isn't through understanding them. It's through understanding yourself. It's about acknowledging the ways you were trained to read danger as love, to see control as care, to confuse chaos for passion. Therapists who specialize in trauma recovery often encourage survivors to rebuild their sense of safety by reclaiming their attention, redirecting that finely tuned sensitivity away from the narcissist's moods and toward their own needs. Because ultimately, you were never meant to read their mind. You were meant to hear your own. There comes a moment in almost every relationship with a narcissist when you realize, painfully, that you are talking to a wall made of mirrors. You explain, you reason, you pour your heart into logic and empathy, hoping that this time they might finally see your point of view. You believe that if you just choose the right words, if you remain calm, rational, and kind enough, they'll listen. But the narcissist doesn't listen to understand. They listen to defend. And so, instead of connection, you're met with deflection. You're too dramatic. You're overreacting. You just don't get me. Psychologists describe this as the narcissistic loop of invalidation, a psychological pattern where the narcissist reinterprets reality to protect their ego from shame. The moment you hold them accountable, their mind triggers an internal alarm. Danger, ego under threat. Rather than face the discomfort of self-reflection, they pivot. The result? A conversation that feels less like dialogue and more like emotional warfare. You're left exhausted, questioning your sanity, while they walk away feeling vindicated. What makes this dynamic especially painful is that narcissists are not delusional. They often know, at least on some level, that what they did was wrong. According to many clinical psychologists, narcissists possess a fragmented form of self-awareness. They recognize their bad behavior but lack the emotional maturity to tolerate the shame it provokes. Shame is to a narcissist what sunlight is to a vampire. It burns. So, when they're caught in wrongdoing, they scramble to rewrite the story. Suddenly, they are not the aggressor but the misunderstood hero, punished for simply being themselves. This is where impression management comes into play, a concept often cited in personality psychology. When their mask slips, the narcissist rushes to repair their image. They perform remorse without truly feeling it, using carefully chosen words or public gestures to regain control of the narrative. "You don't get it," they'll insist. "You're twisting what really happened. This act is not about truth, it's about optics." They may cry, confess, or claim they're being attacked, but all of it serves the same function: to protect the false self from exposure. And sometimes the manipulation takes on an even darker tone. In a chilling psychological twist, the narcissist might insist that their harmful actions were done for your own good. This inversion of morality, where cruelty masquerades as care, is a hallmark of gaslighting. It's a form of psychological abuse that erodes the victim's ability to trust their own perception of reality. In therapy, survivors often describe this as a mental fog, where good and evil blur into one confusing narrative. They begin to doubt themselves, wondering if perhaps the narcissist truly meant well. Beneath this chaos lies what experts call poor self-reflective capacity, the narcissist's inability to ask and answer the question, why? To reflect on their motives would mean confronting their own inadequacy, fragility, and fear of being ordinary. Instead, they construct layers of grandiosity to mask the void beneath. The moment someone attempts to pierce those layers, the narcissist retaliates with projection and blame shifting. You become the problem, the ungrateful one, the misunderstanding fool. In essence, they'd rather destroy your perception of them than face the truth about themselves. Ironically, the narcissist's favorite lament, "You don't understand me," isn't really about misunderstanding at all. It's a coded plea for sympathy cloaked in self-pity. When translated through a psychologist's lens, what they truly mean is, "You're making me feel bad about myself, and I can't handle it." It's not empathy they seek, but absolution. They want their shame erased, not explored. And so they twist their narrative until they are not the villain but the victim of your supposed cruelty. The cruelest irony, however, is that while they demand to be understood, they have little interest in understanding you. Even when they ask, "Why did you do that?" It isn't curiosity, it's entrapment. Therapists often describe this as weaponized inquiry, a psychological tactic designed to extract your vulnerabilities so they can later be used against you. If you answer honestly, they will mock, dismiss, or reinterpret your words. I knew there was something wrong with you. They might sneer, turning your truth into ammunition. So what can you do when you understand narcissism deeply, when you see their patterns clearly, but you know that sharing your insight would only ignite their rage? Psychologists agree. Understanding does not equal engagement. You cannot enlighten a person who is committed to denying their shadow. The healthiest response, paradoxically, is silence. Not to punish them, but to protect your peace. Don't explain becomes a mantra for recovery. Each time you resist the urge to justify, defend, or decode their behavior, you take back a piece of your power. It doesn't mean you've lost empathy. It means you've learned to direct it where it belongs. Inward. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-destruction, and the narcissist will always exploit that open door. The great psychological paradox of healing from narcissistic abuse is this: you can understand why they are the way they are and still choose to walk away. You can feel compassion for their insecurity without excusing their cruelty. You can acknowledge their pain without carrying it. Because empathy was never meant to be servitude. It was meant to be shared between equals, and with a narcissist, equality never existed. So when they say, "You just don't understand me," perhaps the truest response is silent clarity. You do understand, more than they'll ever admit. And that understanding is exactly why you're finally choosing to let go. It's important to understand that several truths can coexist within this paradox. You can recognize the pain that drives a narcissistic person, the constant inner turmoil, the deep-seated shame, the fragile ego that needs endless validation, and still know that this awareness doesn't obligate you to fix them. Empathy and responsibility are not the same thing. Feeling compassion for someone's wounds does not mean sacrificing your own healing in the process. Too often, survivors confuse empathy with endurance, believing that if they could just love harder or understand deeper, something might finally change. But that's the illusion, the exhausting cycle that keeps you bound to their dysfunction. You already understand them more than they understand themselves, and that is both your strength and your burden. Psychologists emphasize that true empathy must coexist with boundaries. You can acknowledge a narcissist's inner hollowness without diving into it to rescue them. Their emptiness is theirs to face. Their healing is theirs to pursue. You cannot do emotional labor for two people, no matter how much you care. The narcissist's eternal refrain, "You just don't understand me," is not a reflection of your failure but a projection of their inability to understand themselves. It's one of the most common manipulations used to keep you feeling small, guilty, and inadequate. You're told that you're not trying hard enough, not patient enough, not compassionate enough. And slowly, you begin to wonder if maybe they're right. But psychologists warn that this is exactly how the trauma bond tightens, through guilt disguised as empathy. The narcissist's lament of being misunderstood is not a cry for connection. It's a demand for control. To them, being understood means being obeyed, admired, and never held accountable. Their version of understanding requires that they always win, that their feelings always come first, and that their flaws remain invisible. For them, validation is not emotional support, it's submission. They want to be seen as exceptional without ever doing the inner work to become so. This distorted desire for special treatment is rooted in what therapists call narcissistic entitlement, a psychological defense that masks their unbearable sense of inadequacy. But to meet that demand would require you to surrender your truth entirely, and no relationship can survive on that kind of sacrifice. It's not your role to spend a lifetime proving to someone that you get them. You do understand them. You've seen their fragility, their rage, their loneliness, and the way they twist pain into power. But your understanding is not the medicine they seek. It's the mirror they avoid. They cannot tolerate your insight because it threatens the fragile illusion that sustains them. The truth is, the only way they would ever feel truly understood is if the world revolved around them, if every word and gesture confirmed their superiority, and if reality itself bent to protect their ego. And that, of course, is not understanding, it's delusion. So the question you must ask yourself is this: Are you willing to live inside someone else's fantasy just to keep them calm? Because that is what it means to stay in the role of the understanding partner in a narcissistic dynamic. Healing begins when you stop confusing compassion with compliance. It's not cruel to choose yourself, it's survival. The narcissist will continue to perform their tragedy of being misunderstood, forever demanding sympathy from a world they refuse to see clearly. But your job is not to be their audience. Your job is to walk away, close the curtain, and finally begin the story of your own peace.